Hey everybody, this is Charlie, and you are listening to 4BZ Truth. I was trying to think of a creative way to say that, and to be honest with you, I don't really care. No offense, I just, I've gotten in that mindset lately. I'm going to kind of just dump my heart right now, because this is a very important message that I wanted to report to everybody. Because I feel like it's something that needs to be said. I am tired of trying to fit a mold. I'm tired. I'm flipping tired. It seems like everybody's always trying to appeal to some authority, or not just appeal, but conform, so that they could fit in somehow. And I've been struggling with this lately, because I'm trying to connect with or fit in with my in-laws, I guess you could say. I don't really I don't relate to the type of person that I am. I don't relate with them, because I look at the world differently than they do. And there's like a consensus view that everybody else seems to have, and I'm the oddball out. And because after this morning, I listened to this video from Hibbler Productions, and now one of the reasons I really like their channel now is they make videos that are very hard-hitting and very jam-packed with information, and they're only like 20 minutes. Now, I rant and talk about stuff, and I try to dump out as much information as I can within a short time period, but I can't prove anything with what I'm saying. I can just give you my opinion and whatnot. But Hibbler Productions made this video about 9/11. Now, I've seen a lot of good 9/11 videos, talking about like proof that there was a media conspiracy that colluded with the government, and they basically, and I'm not talking about the government as a whole. I'm talking about certain individuals within the government, and maybe the CIA, maybe the freaking mafia, who knows. There's all kinds of different groups that might have been involved, and it doesn't require like millions of people to be involved. It just requires a certain handful of powerful individuals, and they could basically dictate to their minions, or whoever it is that does their work for them. Like their associates or whatever, or not. The people that operate under them are basically just obeying orders, right? So if they're just, and everything within the government is compartmentalization, so they're basically just doing what they're told because they obey authority, and they're just doing their job. That's what they would say. So if George W. Bush freaking told you to not talk about something like it's top secret information, are you gonna leak the information? Well, obviously. See, I'm not one who's been following politics lately because of that kind of stuff. I just feel like it's all just a big sham. Like the media is corrupt, and all they want to do is create a narrative that they want you to follow. And the more I think about that, the more it just kind of makes me sick. And I don't really care to follow something that is just gonna, it's like programming, TV programming. Go figure, huh? Anybody that watches television is being programmed. I don't know. I don't mean to sound so conspiracy theory-esque, but, after seeing that video, it just kind of reminds me, everything comes to the surface once again. And I start to realize I'm going to go back to my Christian roots for a minute, because I feel like, I kind of look at the Christianity like it's a funnel. It's helping you identify to certain issues because it gives you an image. And now sometimes not all the tools are available to, your Christian faith or whatever. You don't really know what you're fighting against. Now, when Paul talks about, it's Paul that says, this battle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers in the heavenly realm or whatever. When I think of Aleister Crowley and like these Freemasons and stuff that get into these rituals where they're doing seances and inviting spirits into their whatever circle, I just feel like what they're doing is they're taking on they're tuning into a frequency of demonic forces where they're basically the vessel, the vehicle that is now under the control of this demonic entity. Now, I truly believe that there is evil powers that are controlling the dark realm. I know that sounds like freaking Lord of the Rings or something, but angels and demons and aliens and all that stuff kind of ties in together. There's a realm that is, when I say the word dark, it mainly is just suggesting evil, or a realm that is outside of God's light and love. Now, why in the world is there evil entities trying to control our realm and create death? Still kill and destroy or whatever. I'm kind of becoming a believer that Satan or Lucifer isn't necessarily an individual, but if he is, he's controlling all of the darkness, and kind of the same way George W. Bush is controlling people to implement whatever he may have been in control of. I'm not sure George W. Bush was in charge of it. I think that maybe somebody higher than him was, and that's when I'm talking about the shadow government. And I'm not going to say that it was the Rothschilds or freaking the Rockefellers or whatever, but it's possible that they have a hand in it. But I take it a step further when they freaking start talking about, when David Icke talks about the reptilians that are basically sucking our life away through their freaking, they feed off of our fear or whatever. It just sounds consistent with the whole demonic thing. I don't necessarily subscribe to that in full, but I do feel like I believe that there's something to that. And with my understanding of frequencies, and like Nikola Tesla talks about energy fields and things, I believe that there's frequencies that control the vibrations of these different scenarios or realms or whatever. I don't know how they're separated. I don't know how if it's just the higher dimensional levels, like up to 10 dimensional levels or whatever they're talking about in physics, and or theoretical physics. Honestly, I don't put a lot of trust or faith into the system of science, but there are certain things that sound like they're consistent with that train of thought, like the fractal, our fractal existence, and everything's based off of energy or electricity, and we're all just electrical conduits, and maybe it's not us that's the conduit. Maybe it's just everything is connected, and electricity just is what dictates how things manifest. Now, so if we're looking at our reality and we just look around, we see everything. It's all based on like a DNA type code. Our bodies have DNA code, which makes us up, but maybe our reality has some sort of DNA code that makes it operate the way it does. I don't know. I mean, that just kind of shooting a thought out there. I don't know if that's true, but it's something to think about. And but I'm a true believer that we are under spiritual attack, and we're being deceived. And I hate to, for those people that are like my subscribers, I believe think a lot like me, but a lot of my new subscribers, decided to click subscribe because I've been talking a lot about very spiritual things, but not from a biblical perspective per se. But I've been looking outside of the Bible for clues of what this reality is, and I find myself coming full circle back to the Christian paradigm. And the reason I come back to the Christian paradigm is I feel like when I dabble into these things that are outside of quote unquote God's, under the shadow of his wing, I've been thinking a lot about this. Like, if I venture out on my own trying to figure these things out, and I don't operate under the power of God or under his directive, so to speak, I feel like I'm just a rogue agent. And if you're a rogue agent kind of doing your own thing and operating under your own authority, I have a feeling it's actually not going to amount to much. I mean, it could, draw a lot of people in. Like, say, for instance, I get a lot of new subscribers. There's a lot of rogue agents out there trying to do their own thing, and they're just looking for answers on their own, and maybe some onto my page and find out that I'm saying a lot of things that, that agree with their perspective, and everybody's just looking for confirmation of their own bias. And all I want to suggest is that there is a paradigm that you should filter everything through, and I believe that is through Christ. I mean, he was selling the whole concept of love. Thy neighbor is thyself. Do unto others as you would have them do to you, the golden rule. I mean, these are the really just ancient wisdom. Self-fulfillment is actually serving others. If you're trying to gratify yourself through money or fame or things like that, it all ends up making you feel empty. Jesus had the most wisdom of anybody that I can think of. You could say Buddha had a lot of wisdom. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really looked into Buddha too much. There's a lot of people that But I kind of look at Buddha like a rogue agent. He was not operating under the power of God. He was operating under his own wisdom. So I'm not saying that man can't have wisdom that is sound or legitimate, but I believe if God has an agenda to gather up his sheep, so to speak, and we are his shepherds, or you could say that we are all sheep and we're astray, and we need to come back to the main shepherd. And what it comes down to is God has an agenda that we need to tap into. We need to understand what it is that he has for us individually. So if we are just going rogue, we need to come back to the source. We need to come back to the Almighty, the Most High. And, you know, I've been fighting this whole thing about Jesus the Christ and trying to understand if, you know, is Jesus just a concept of what we should be? Or, you know, I explore these ideas, but as I explore them, I feel empty. And is it because I'm clinging to an idea of, I just want to, you know, I want to have continue to live in my Christian existence, or my deep rooted belief system. I mean, it's deep rooted because I don't know how to escape from it, because I've lived it all my life, and I'm 38 now, so it's like I've only recently been testing the things that I consider my reality. But again, I've come full circle, and now I'm realizing when I'm going rogue, I'll speak for myself. When I'm going rogue, I start realizing that there's emptiness, there's a lot of despair, because I start realizing that this whole thing that I've taken from near-death experiences, that God is all loving and forgiving, and that everybody's accepted. I start thinking, oh, well, maybe, and this is not just so, you know, just like blatant, I guess, but I actually feel like grace is more powerful than it ever was before. So it gives me some sort of right to just walk in sin. And I noticed that with people that are walking in sin, and they're like, oh, well, grace will abound and I can walk in sin. But I am a true believer now. I'm really starting to let this sink in, that sin is what separates us from God. And we cannot tune into his frequency if we're walking in sin, living in sin. And, you know, for someone like me who's trying to be a good husband and a good dad, I can't freaking be looking at porn and masturbating. I mean, let's get real. I'm just trying to be not just a good husband and a good dad, but I need to be a good servant of God and serve his agenda. And you know, my channel, I try to be as transparent as I can be, and I'll always go back to this teaching that I had with my pastor from Meridian Vineyard here in Idaho. And you know, he was on this kick when he was talking about intimacy, having intimacy with God, or having a true relationship with God. He kind of broke down the syllables of intimacy, and he was saying, into me, see, to have intimacy is allowing, you know, somebody to see into you. And if you're not transparent, if you're putting up walls, if you're walking, you know, as if you're just someone else. If you're acting like you're someone else, then you're not walking transparent. So I'm trying to speak with transparency here, everybody. If you're listening to this, I don't want to freaking serve the darkness anymore. I really don't. The darkness is a powerful force that continues to draw people in, and I don't understand what it is. All I know is that if you are trying to operate under your own rogue freaking agenda, you're walking in darkness and you're not protected. You know, some people would say that, oh, you're always going to have that guardian angel that's walking with you. That just reminds me of some superstitious idea that somebody just made up. Although I do hear that people in their near-death experiences have said that we do have guardian angels or family members that walk with us on the other side or whatever. Honestly, I'm a little concerned that near-death experiences have the potential of deceiving us. And I'm not talking about just the experience. I'm talking about if we're interacting with entities on the other side. It could be demonic forces. I just think that we should be more mindful and discerning. And I've never had an experience, but I do know that pseudo love can be powerful and could feel very fulfilling. And I mean, trust me, I've had sex with somebody before marriage, and it felt really good. And I know that having the covenant of marriage actually makes it so much better. But anyways, that's kind of going down a different rabbit hole. But forgive my terrible video work. I'm just trying to drive to work, and I wanted to give you guys some of my thoughts. But if you're interested in any of this substance or this content, I try to, you know, load up a video every once in a while, and it's important that people kind of think for themselves, but I also believe that they should operate under the paradigm of truth, which is basically the filter of Jesus. I believe that if anybody's questioning what that means, go start reading some of the parables that Jesus taught. So anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I love you guys. I'm about to park at work. I need to freaking get in to start making some money. So if you want to support my channel, like and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.